Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Kegel Show. It is my sincerest pleasure to have with me today one of the biggest gurus in competitive bowling, Randy Stoughton. Randy, thank you for coming out today and spending some time with us.
My pleasure, Don. Always good to talk with you.
You have you've been involved in bowling your whole life,
Pretty much, yeah.
I mean, let's just start to the nitty gritty. What made you choose bowling as, that definitive career path?
Well, I was basically a baseball player as a kid, and I was going to be Brooks Robinson or some great third baseman for the Yankees. Name one. That's who I wanted to be when I was 10, 11, 12 years old, and I was pretty good at it. I was in that stage though where some guys matured quickly and some guys didn't.
Sure.
I was the one that didn't, and for me to compete against those kids that were 14 years old, but they were men.
Yeah.
And I was still a boy, and so I didn't really get looked at as a viable player because of that. So my next door neighbor was a bowler, and he bowled in the Saturday morning junior league at Miracle Lanes in Indianapolis, Indiana. And he came over one day and said, "Could you sub for me? I need a bowler." And well, I've never bowled before. And he said, "Well, we'll have fun, So I went over there, and that's how it kind of all started. I threw 3 games, and my first game was a 130 something, and I just kind of caught on to it really quick. It seemed like, and whenever you get good at something, you want to pursue
You get that
it.
drive.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
Wow, I'm actually pretty good at this. It's fun, and it's kind of what I teach today. Is humans have this thing about knocking stuff over, and we get a big kick out of knocking something over. And when you don't have to go put them back up, it's even better.
Absolutely.
And the ball comes back to you. Wow, this is getting better and better all the time. So they had me hook, line, and sinker, and I was forever bowling from then on. Within a year, I was working at the bowling center as a cleanup boy, and go to the bathrooms and make sure that the towels were right and the toilet paper was right and it was clean.
Absolutely.
I worked for Don Mitchell, Royal Penn Center.
Yes, know him very well.
Just one of the biggest influences in my life was Don Mitchell, and whenever I needed help, he was there. Whenever I needed a kick in the butt, he was there, and he had no problem doing either one of those.
I got to spend some time around him when I was out there doing some of the tour stops over the years, and flash forward from that kind of simple beginning. I mean, your qualifications are too much to list on this show, but USBC gold level certified coach, head coach of women's team for Weber College, obviously one of the lead coaches for Kegel Training Center. But, we've known each other a long time and met before you actually came to work at Kegel. And that was back when you were on PBA tour.
Right.
Okay, so I mean, your skill set's diversified. It's not just coaching. Can you tell the audience some of that background?
Well, again, it started off as 13 years old, and you're cleaning ashtrays and that type of thing. And I always made it a point to work on the nights where the men's leagues were going to bowl the late leagues. And so I kind of picked up, and I'll mention this man's name, Joe Piccioni Jr. Again, just a major influence in my who would you like to be? When you say I want to copy a game, that was the guy, and he was just really smooth. He just looked elegant actually, and my hair is the way my hair is because of Joe Piccioni Jr. I swear to God. And Joe, I love you.
Shout out to Joe.
Yeah, and I hope you see this because it's true. You were a huge influence on me, and so you go through the junior leagues, and I was pretty good. I bowled the traveling team, and we were usually the winners. And you get to meet some great people that I still know today. Ron Atkins being one of those guys. Is Don Mitchell Pro Shop's been forever, since day one, and all the crew that works for him. So that's kind of where it started as a kid, and then when I got into the adult leagues, I hooked up with Joe Piccioni Jr. He put me on his team. He kind of got drafted.
Yeah, brought you that next level.
Absolutely. So wow. The dream is actually a kind of a reality. So again, there's one positive thing after another kept occurring because of bowling. So again, it just makes you want to stay in it. and then Mike Albee comes around. Now Mike is 6 years younger than me, but he was a phenom. So he took everything that I had established and just says, well, here's the next level.
Tough
you know, and again, I wouldn't be sitting here today if it wasn't for Mike Albee. He's the one that got, you know, he went straight out on tour via Don Mitchell as his sponsor, and Joe Piccioni, again, well, if he's going out, why don't you go out? So we got a group of people together, and so now I went out on tour in '79, the same year that Mike went out. I just went out on the summer tour as opposed to the winter tour, which is when Mike took off. But when we went out together, our second tournament together, he wins.
Wow.
And it was the national championship in Las Vegas, Nevada, and he's bowling Earl Anthony for the title. And he's 19 years old and throwing a white dot, a 15-pound white dot now, which was unheard of in those days. Everybody bowled with 16 pounds. You know.
As a pin carrier. Sure.
Exactly. And I got the pleasure and the luxury of, you know, watching that take place from right behind him. You know, and I learned so much about watching people bowl from that experience that if I would have really been as mature as I am now, I would have seen that was probably my calling, and I should go into coaching. And I kind of did in that moment, but you know, I wanted to be the star. You know, I wanted to be the guy with the trophy in my hand and all that stuff. So
you also were instrumental in helping a lot of the pros out there. You know, later on in your life, you were driving balls on the truck. I mean, you were
you fast forward from my career, which didn't really mature the way I would have liked for it to happen, but you know, you're out there for 5 or 6 years, and you know, you make friends, and
absolutely,
and you kind of get a lifestyle, and you either like the road or you don't like the road.
Agreed.
And I liked it. I you know, everybody says, how do you do that? And I said, that's the easiest thing in the world. You know, I got somebody making my bed for me, somebody changing my towels for me. And,
power bills paid.
You know, how good can it be? You know, so it was to me, it was no big deal. But from the outside looking into a lot of other people, especially the family-oriented people, that's maybe the one thing that I missed out on, was not having my own family. But now, again, fast forward to Weber. Now I got all the kids I could possibly dream of.
Isn't that the truth?
And so I've gotten that end of me fulfilled. It just took a little bit longer for it to take place, and it takes on a different look because of how I did it, but it's still the same feelings.
How many balls do you think you drilled out there?
Well, we averaged, in those days, the 80s, you were looking at a PTQ on Monday, and within the PTQ you probably had about 150 bowlers, you know, shooting for 50 spots.
Now, for some of our audience might be younger, PTQ was pre-tournament qualifier back then.
Yeah, exactly.
And we used to call that rabbits kind of on the side.
Yeah, that's what we were, because we were chasing the tour.
Yeah.
So we were the rabbit squad, and you know, I did that my whole career. I never was an exempt player, other than from the tournament before. If you made a check, you got to be exempt the next week. I was on the tournament committee as well, so I was an executive board member, so I stayed actively involved in what was going on. You know, I felt like that was pretty important, and my peers nominated me to be that guy. So again, that was kind of a compliment to me, and I took it very seriously, and a couple of changes took place because of me complaining. But again, another great moment there. It was George Pappas, the general. Everybody should know George Pappas, and if you don't, you should look him up. He's an unbelievable human being.
Oh, yeah.
Proprietor now, but a great bowler. And he was president of the PBA, and he was also the tournament committee chairman. And when I came in with a bitch the first time, he would say, Randy, anybody can bitch. What's the answer to the problem? That's what you got to come up with. And so I learned that lesson from
Smart man.
Absolutely.
Smart man.
I've been living by it ever since.
So with PTQs, how long were you on the ball truck?
Well, I was 87, 88, 89, and 90. We averaged 450 balls a week.
A week?
Yeah. Yeah, my first day on the job, I drilled 234 balls.
Wow.
That was my first day on the job. And I was with Bill Hall. It was, you know, back in the urethane and polyester rubber days. You know, that was the only balls. There was no mixed densities. We weren't doing slugs as a means to an end. and we weren't doing ovals, so it was just basically 3 holes and out, maybe an extra hole was the routine back in those days. And so again, urethanes are pretty stubborn material. It can take some abuse. So you put that bit in, you break the shell, and then you just drove it home. So you could drill a ball in about 2 minutes.
A lot quicker than today.
Yeah, and Bill Hall could do it even faster than that. So I'm doing it at 2 minutes, and he made me look like I was slow.
Billy's pretty impressive guy.
No doubt about it.
Shout out to you, Mr. Hall. It's been a couple of years since we've seen each other. Him and I spent
another
a bit of
mentor
time
of mine.
in Asia, on and off.
So you see me in this position, but it's because of the people at every step of the way that I had the luxury and the pleasure and to work with and to be taught by. You don't go to school for this.
Yeah.
I got a PhD in bowling. Well, where did you get that diploma? Well, that's what my history would show you is I did it in this phase here and I did it in this phase there. And so, when you're drilling balls for the best in the world, and all the manufacturers are using you as a testing facility as well.
You gain a lot of knowledge.
Oh, unbelievable. So now I started learning about bowling balls and what they were made of and how they were constructed and all that other stuff, which made the end result even better for me because I understood what the design was. So why would I want to use this ball? How would this ball be used and in what situations and who for? And that was kind of the beginning of my understanding ball motion and understanding RGs and differentials and cover stocks and why shiny works and why it doesn't work and why dull works and why it doesn't work in certain situations. That again, when you're dealing with the best in the world, it's instantaneous. That's pretty cool.
What's interesting to me is that not that you have to be a competitor in the sport you coach in, but it is, I think, pretty impressive that obviously you had a bowling career. You still do bowl occasionally, but one of the things that fascinated me was you actually, at one point in time, I thought it was due to an injury, you went to a one-step approach, correct?
Right.
You actually shot 300 in the league with a one-step?
Several.
Yeah. And you've taught a couple of people that.
Yep.
That in itself is unbelievable.
Well, again, when you love something, you don't take no for an answer as many times as maybe you should.
Touche.
But again, the end of my professional career was just a direct result of I had an ear infection. I got on a plane and my eardrum burst.
Oh man!
While I was on the plane,
didn't know that.
Destroyed my balance nerve, and to this day I can't walk a straight line. So from getting from point A to point B the same way over and over again is not in my wheelhouse. So you go through the depression of okay, now what are you going to do? Well,
sure.
That's when I started drilling balls, and so that kind of trust me when I tell you, ladies and gentlemen, I worked 120 hours a week. That was the love that you had to have to maintain that job. You were the first one there every day, and you were the last one to leave every day, and it was a 7-day-a-week job.
Yep.
So
I remember riding behind you guys. When we were out there doing lanes.
Yeah.
I mean, speaking of teaching, obviously you've taught a lot of people on a professional level. You've been instrumental to a lot of success of individual athletes, both male and female. Currently, you're the head coach of the Weber women's bowling team, which has had a pretty impressive number of years. So we'll have to give you personal kudos to that. Can you kind of speak a little bit about that role that you play, as the head coach of that team?
Well, this is where, again, you get a chance to build people. You take high school kids and, they're young and they're energetic and they think that they know the world pretty well. And so there's kind of a learn curve there for them. I'm not quite as good as what I thought I was. And, in my little niche, I was the stuff. I was the queen of bowling or the king of bowling, and then you start taking away the not so goods, and you go to the next level, and now everybody that you encounter is kind of on that same page with you, and so it takes on another skill level set that's going to be required to be on top of that bunch. And being at the Kegel Training Center and the world renownedness of the Kegel Training Center was very instrumental in us being successful right off the get-go. I got the Team Puerto Rico for lack of a better term. Jessica Santiago was on the junior Puerto Rican team, and as well as Josie Leon was a member of not only the junior but also the adult team.
Nationals, yeah.
Yeah, and then again, Ashley Galante was just, she was already part of Kegel going into that, had won a national championship at Pikeville, and she was now on our team, and she actually waited out a year to actually be the first one on our team. So she was a big part of that team as well. But it was a small group of women. I think we had 6 is what we had, and we just kind of took those 6 people and made it work. And next thing you know, you're given an opportunity to win, and the ladies did their job. And we got a couple of breaks along the way to make it to the TV show, to beat Robert Morris, who was, we bowled them 22 games of Baker to get to that TV show. And you talk about it was best of 7, and 7 wasn't enough. The third time we had to go to 8 because we had to tie one. And so it was, the emotional roller coaster and all that kind of stuff is, God, that's what makes it so great. I get goosebumps thinking about it. It's just so cool, And then, you make the TV, and once we got on TV, I felt supremely confident. It was just like, I've been there so many times before with the Ebonite women's staff on an individual basis. So, the lights and all that kind of stuff was no big deal to me. And I think Ashley had a little bit of experience there because of her championship year, so she wasn't so intimidated by it. And Josie was a little bit older, so she was, again, not intimidated by it. But when you looked at the other team, the McKendree team, you could tell that they looked into the lights, and it was a deer in the headlights look. And that's kind of what I told my team in the huddle. This is where we're going to meet. We're going to meet in this huddle, and they are scared. They're seeing stars right now, and all we want to see is our line. And we just
you and I have seen that on the professional level with the first time show starter, that type of thing. Randy, I can't thank you enough for coming by, brother. Without a doubt, it's been a pleasure.
Yep.
And also, it's funny you were mentioning one of your past and also present students, Ashley Galante. We got her to actually pop in for today to come see. So.
Oh my God.